Hey everybody, Azrael here. I am one of the co-developers of the Tabletop Simulator Infinity mod, and just wanted to come on to one, talk about some changes we made to the mod, some changes we're making as far as development goes, and in general, main thing I want to do is to thank you all for subscribing to the mod and trying it on Tabletop Simulator when the War of 1812 and I, originally kind of thought of the idea to put Infinity into Tabletop Simulator. It was building off of somebody who had built Operation Ice Storm, and it kind of sparked our creativity. And a couple years later, a lot of people are playing it and loving it, and actually playing cohesive games of Tabletop Simulator Infinity. So again, thank you. As far as development goes, the War of 1812 has decided he no longer wants to pursue updating it. I no longer want to be the lead developer as either on this or the Aristea mod that I was developing. So we have identified people in the community that were willing and capable of taking the reins and leading these two projects. The Aristea mod I've handed off to Harlequin of Death, and he is working with the developers of the Spanish mod of Aristea, and they're going to look at actually making a multilingual mod that will cover both English and Spanish, and allow those player bases to play each other. So that's in good hands. Why Rock No Die, also known as Ming, will be taking over lead development for the Infinity mod. And we've already been working together over the past few days, and he's been helping Greg kind of keep models updated. You all know him from all his separate Infinity uploads. Well, now he will be the lead of the main. So what we've done with both of these mods, Aristea and Infinity, is we've created new versions, and we are stopping development on the old versions and relinking them, because the Steam Workshop does not allow you to transfer ownership of these mods from one person to another. So this is how we're going to do that. So so you will need to resubscribe to these new mods, both Aristea and Infinity. And of course, we've also, we're looking at how to better foster the community. Vol has done a great job taking care of the community, helping players plug into each other. He's done great tutorial videos. He's now starting the league. If you're interested in that, I'll have links in the video for you to find his information, his Discord, and I believe he's allowing latecomers to his league. You definitely want to double check and make sure that that's allowed, or that he is doing that. And then of course I'll also link our current Discord. Like I said, we're looking at different ways. Are we going to merge the two communities together? Would it be better for the player base to do so? Those are still decisions that need to be made, and those will happen in the coming days. We definitely would like your input. So if you do have any ideas on how to best serve the community, or ideas for the mods in general, definitely reach out to the development heads of everything through these discords, and let us know. We're always looking for talented people to help us. So if you're able to sculpt in Blender, if you're able to do image editing in Photoshop, if you're able to do Lua scripting, all of that stuff is very necessary to continue to develop the mod. And as much as we've done so far, we're limited in our knowledge base. We're constantly growing, but very limited. So again, thank you all for fostering this community. Especially right now in the kind of the current season we're in, the ability to play Infinity remotely like this is more important than ever, to give people that outlet to keep their skills honed until we're able to get back to the game stores and play again. Of course, in the coming months, we'll start seeing the rollouts for Infinity Code 1, and then later this year, 4th edition. And we'll figure out how to incorporate that into the mods as it is. So yeah, going through my notes here. Yeah. So changes on the mod that we've updated today, that Rock and I have updated. The first thing I did, and it took me a while to watch Paul's tutorial videos, and I made a joke on one of his videos that I was offended that he deleted my command consoles. I understand why. When I designed the mod, the kind of a lot of the aesthetics of the mod originally, my thought was to make a theme park in which you were playing Infinity. You know, you were going into this war room inside of a demilitarized zone, and these two commanders were playing across the table, and so you know I had all the walls and decorations and everything just to make it very theme parky. Um, Here's the thing: I didn't play the mod a whole lot. Um, And what I don't realize is eventually the theme park wears off and kind of distracts from the game. And I get that. So what I've done is I've deleted all that extra decoration, the roomness. Basically, it's a floating table with the side tables, very much focused on the game table itself, which it should be. And I definitely agree with that. So all of the tablets that had all the wiki and the hacking chart, all of the quick reference charts, all of it, we nuked it. And also, we got rid of the command consoles as they are. I have swapped those out here in a little bit. You'll see that that's all gone. And actually, I can go ahead and give you a preview of what we're actually looking at here. Swap over. So yeah, you'll see we're in a void. Definitely muted these tables, and you can see the command consoles are gone, and these have been replaced with a little more minimalist design, but also a little more function that I'll get into here in a little bit. I did move the player hands. They were sitting on the ground over here. I have actually moved those up to a normal area. For whatever reason, Tabletop Simulator keeps resetting the hands and brings back the default 8 colors. So periodically, I have to redo it when we're working in it. So I kind of find a path of least resistance and just change the colors, move them back a little bit, and place the hands that way. So the new console style. So you'll notice I got rid of the old command consoles, and what I've done is I've actually retextured the table. I got rid of the hex pattern and actually did a brand new retexture. What's actually texture on the table are anything that you see on this kind of bottom part, the command tokens, the lieutenant order, the objective points, the roll button, and then group 1 is actually on the table texture. What's not is this group 2. This is actually a tile that looks very similar, but is actually deletable. So if you are playing limited insertion or a one group game, you can actually just remove this. If you are one of those crazy people that runs 3 or 4 combat groups, Ariadne spam, you can actually come into this new box. There's actually 2 of them, one at each end of the table, to search for the order group plates. And what you'll see is the group 3 and group 4 plates that you can actually snap down in here, and then counters like these, which I'll show you the counters shortly. Pretty much functionality. What these can do everything pretty much that the old command consoles could do. Like I said, just more minimalist, and now I've added these clickable counters. I incorporated these into the Aristea mod quite a few months ago, and I found they were really handy. And kind of my theory with Tabletop Simulator is, yes, you can replicate the tabletop with flipping counters just like you would at the game store, but Tabletop Simulator in its nature is clunky, so try to find other ways to streamline it so that your overall, kind of tedium is less. And I feel these clickable counters can't do that. So anytime you see a number on the table that has the scripting button above it, if you left click, it'll increase it by 1. If you right click it, it'll decrease it by 1. That's it. Simple. Based on what counter it is, they actually max out at 10 and they min at 0. So you can't go below that, can't go above that. Like I said, the ones in group 2 are deletable. So at the start of your game, if you're not going to run a second group, get rid of it. Objective points, same deal. They go to 10. It's been a while since I played ITS, so if the ability to go above 10 is a thing now, let me know. But it doesn't sound like that would be the case. The Lieutenant Order is still a flippable order token. I didn't feel the need to put a counter to go from 0 to 1. So got that. And then of course command tokens will actually go up to 5. Again, if there's a skill that allows command tokens to go above 5, definitely let me know and I'll get that adjusted. That is easy. You'll notice I changed the roll button. Still works the same. Nope, still got to drop a die in it. Still works the same. Still a 5 die limit. Again, if anything gets a 6 die roll, let me know. It still reports just like it always has. The buttons are just no longer like physically raised. It looks like it's on the table. If you do need to do the reset, you just need to kind of hover until you see the non-script button, and you can actually do a reset to do that. Everything should be locked down. Like I said, the group 2 stuff you can just nuke by kind of finding it and right clicking. So there's that. Token bags. So upon popular request, and a lot of people have been doing this on their own, we created token bags for kind of the more popular tokens that you would use. So your flipped wound and unconscious tokens, regular and impetuous orders. That reminds me. On these groups, I do still have the 10 snap points down below. So if you are wanting to not use the counters, you would rather use the regular orders. Those are still in the orders and related. Those regular tokens are. You can still use those, and you can still load your irregular and impetuous tokens. The reason I didn't make those counters is, to me, the way I would play at the store is I would set all those irregular and impetuous tokens by their corresponding models during the beginning of my turn. I wouldn't just have them there, and so to have a counter seemed a little weird. We'd still put them with the token. You can still flip them to go to the muted side, just like always. Of course, YRock added the extremely impetuous token, so that's here now as well. Prone tokens, you need those a lot, so here they are. Mines, they're there. I foresee you would actually probably use these more when you're doing list building, so you'd actually have them in your hidden zone, so you can go ahead and turn them into camo tokens or camo silhouettes, but they're there for that. We also did marksmanship and suppression fire. Those are the ones we kind of identified as the most used. If you have any ideas for more, definitely let us know. And I did 2 sets of those, one on each side of the table for both players. We also went ahead and put the templates into these bags, so the circular template one. So pull those out as needed. The advantage to having them in these infinite bags is once you're done with them, you just delete them. You don't have to worry about putting them back, shuffling them aside. Should keep the table area quite a bit cleaner. One thing I did is on the states where there is non-collision. So like the second state of the circular template or the second state of the teardrop templates, you can't tell. You can tell more in the smoke template, as I actually added a little bit of transparency to them. Now that the color tint function allows for alpha transparency, it's at about 75% transparency. I played with 50, but I was worried about visibility. Let me know if you would like these to be a little more transparent, more smoke-like, or not. Definitely let me know. That way, they don't. If there's tokens on the ground next to it or inside of it, they still would show up. So like if there was a wound token inside of the non-collider, you can still technically see it inside of the smoke. So it's not completely opaque if that's down. My phone would stop going to sleep. So yeah, those are kind of the main changes. What I also wanted to do in this video is I've watched Val's tutorial videos, which are great, and Val, thank you so much for doing those. Those will really help a lot of new people getting into the game, and I definitely recommend, if you haven't watched those yet, watch those before you start digging into this video. But there were some other little tips and tricks that I've found using Tabletop Simulator over the years that I thought might help the Infinity community. The first one is using the expand function to pull objects from another mod in without having to leave the current mod. So I know in Vol's tutorial he showed you how to save objects into your saved objects and then just pull it in. There's actually another way that you can do it. So say I want a Pano model that's not in the boxes, which of note, YRock is going to be adding more of his stuff outside of the mod into the main mod as it comes in. So I don't know what his plans are for those kind of outside mods, if he's going to keep those going or not, or if he's just going to be updating the main mod. Definitely keep a look here. But anyway, say I want a Pano model that's not in this box on the builder table. So I can come into my games, and I've subscribed to his Pan-Oceania model table. Now I could load that, I could build a list, put it in a bag, save it, bring it in. Another thing I can do is I can hit options here, and I can actually expand. And what that's going to do is that's going to show any objects that load when the mod first loads. So anything that's in a bag already, you're going to have to bring that bag in and open it up. But you can actually see all of the things that are initially loaded right here in the expand function. So say I want a Swiss Guard. I can actually type in Swiss Guard, and I can find the two models, and all I've got to do is drop them in. It'll immediately load it right out of the mod. I didn't have to leave. I didn't have to save it. It's right there. Now, if you're doing, that's pretty good for small objects. But like I said, if you're doing like what Vol recommended, where you're kind of building it in his mod and bringing it in, a lot of times if you're pre-building anyway, you might as well just go into the mod and do it. But this is a way to pull something, say you forgot a mod, but you're already in the middle of a multiplayer game and you don't want to get out. This is a way to do that. This is also a way if you accidentally delete something from the current mod and you can't go back and undo it, but it was there when you initially loaded it, you could actually even go back on your current save state, expand it, and get assets that way. Now, sometimes this takes a little bit to load, depending on how many assets are loading at the time. But this is definitely a good way to do that, and I really regret clicking this right now because this one's taking forever to load. There we go. So yeah, anything I might have accidentally deleted, say one of the stage bags or something that I dropped it in and I forgot to duplicate it first, you can go back and grab it. So neat little trick there. Another trick, and this is very limited functionality, is say Mr. Swiss Guard here has a wound, and I'm still moving him around, but then I've got to move the wound marker after him, and I move him, and the wound marker's got to come after him. Well, this is where your joint tool comes into play. All you do is you click the joint tool, take your primary model, click and drag to the wound. Now, anytime I move him, that moves with him. Now, another thing you have to consider though is they kind of collide as one unit now. So if you don't place it right, it could cause some issues that way. So like I said, it's very limited in functionality, but you may find that it becomes a handy tool. If you don't want the joint anymore, all you've got to do is click the joint tool and click one of the two objects, and it'll break the joint, or delete one of the two and it'll break the joint when that happens. So another way to move models, if you're running into the collider areas and you don't want to use the nudge function because it just kind of bumps stuff around too weird and you want to get more precise, Paul showed you how to go into the gizmo tool and click and actually move using the arrows. What I want to show you, I can, and it's really hard to see on this base. If you notice, there's a little green square that's just kind of laying down on that plane. Basically, if you click and hold this, you can move anywhere on the X and Y axes, sure, but not the Z. So I can just grab this little homeboy, and it'll it'll go from green to yellow when you've got it, just like the arrows. But now I can actually move it anywhere along this plane to dial it in exactly where I want it to go, and I can even collide them if I need to, without having to, move it this direction first, move it this direction first. Having this little humbucker will allow you to move both in one click. So very handy tool there. Using the consoles, I pretty much already showed you how to do that. So everybody knows that on a lot of the mats, there's the secondary mat, which that mat secondary is actually shrank down. It's a good thing we won't use it. Anyway, or actually I may have, did I accidentally throw this mat? Oh no. Let's see. I guess. Oh, still 48. Okay, so this one's right. The other one's shrank. Anyway, sorry for the detour. You had the secondary states, and I had made a version of this that was a 4-inch grid. Well, that's cool and all, but you have to actually, if you wanted a new mat, you had to take it, pair it up with the grid mat, create a multi-state object, import it in. There's actually an easier way to do it, and it's been in Tabletop Simulator for a very long time, and that is the grid tool. And all you have to do is come into options and go to grid. And I've already got the mod preset for this, but you hit show lines, and all of a sudden you have this nice grid. And actually, let me get back to the main map. You have this nice grid. Now, this grid will show up on the table and any object, whether they be tiles or buildings, that has grid projection turned on, which if you right click on an object and go to toggles, that's what this grid projection is. So if I was to go to the mat, or grid projection off, of course you lose it. But right now I've got this grid set at every 4 inches. So if you're doing standard 12-inch deployment, you just count 3 out. There's your deployment line. As long as the buildings have grid projection on, you can actually see that deployment line at every point of the building, which is really handy when you're up level. So you can even come here and know exactly where the 24-inch line is right here on this building. So of course, you would turn this on at the beginning of the game during deployment, turn it off. Don't allow anybody to turn it back on until the end of turn or end of round, whenever measuring needs to happen based on the scenario. Another handy aspect is, and I only recommend doing this during objective token placement, is to come into the grid and turn snapping to lines on. What you can do is you can come in here, and we're going to get some alien consoles out, and say it needs to be placed dead center on the table, 24 inches. This will snap it right in that line. Then once you place objectives, of course you don't want your models snapping to the grid either, because even if you hide this, that snapping's still on. Turn the snapping back off, that's not going to move. Go ahead and lock it down, and now that alien console is right exactly where you need it, and it's not going in. So there you go. There's the grid. I did notice the version that YRock uploaded today actually doesn't have the changes I made to the grid. We'll upload a new version soon, but it's as easy as changing your distance to 4 inches. Because of the way we scaled the mod, we scaled it true to Tabletop Simulator's units of value. So if you just stick it on 4 and then lines, just pretty much like this, you'll get that perfect 4-inch grid. And you could, in theory, turn that grid down to 1 and get you have it at 1 inch and count it that way, but most everything in Infinity is in a multiple of 4. So that's why I defaulted it to 4 inches. You can offset it, but because of the way that the mat is centered in the map, you shouldn't need to offset it. So there's the grid. Cameras. So I hear this a lot that, you know, moving the camera around is some kind of tedious. So a couple of things I want you to be aware of if you're not. And with anything I'm showing you today, a lot of you probably already found. It's just extra stuff that'll kind of help you out. Hitting the P button on your keyboard will cycle through 3 different modes. So right now I'm in the default third person mode, which is the the WSAD keys move you on the plane, the scroll wheel zooms you in and out, and then the right click rotates the view. You hit P, you'll enter first person camera, which will act more like a traditional fly around first person camera. Hence the name. If you get too low to the ground, you'll actually start clipping, so you kind of have to fly above a little bit. But this is great when you want to actually get a model's perspective for determining lines of fire. You can actually get pretty close and really get down table level. And then spacebar raises you up, control lowers you down. So spacebar elevate. So think of it just like playing a first-person shooter on keyboard. Spacebar jumps, makes you go up. Control button crouches you, makes you go down. Same principles here. So there's first person mode. Also, the third one is a top down only mode. I use this when I'm building stuff, just to kind of when I'm laying stuff out. In game, I don't see this as much of a benefit. And then other modules in Tabletop Simulator would benefit from this, but it's just a top down where you can't rotate this angle. I don't remember the letter, whatever. Not a physics major or a math major. I'm not any kind of major. So there you go. And then rotate, hit P again. I'm back into the third person, which is where you're going to be the majority of the time. If you hit spacebar, of course, you default back to the kind of the default table view of the color that you picked, which right now I picked Game Master. Change color, we go to blue. Anytime I zoom out, anytime I hit spacebar, it'll go to this. However, what we can do is I can actually go into top-down mode. And let's say I want a view of just the blue player's command console area. Okay, so I can go ahead and set that up. And actually, the version I'm going to be uploading actually has these 2 camera states saved, one for the blue side, one for the red side. All you do is you line up where you want it to be, you hold control and hit 1 on your keyboard, and it'll save this as camera 1. Now what I can do is I can come around to red side, and I can rotate camera. Kind of pan it over a little bit, and I can hold control and 2, and now save it as camera 2. And I can go back into third person. I can hit the space bar. Now if I hold shift and hit 1, I'll go to that. I'll hold shift and hit 2. I'll switch over to this one. Sometimes it's quick to kind of shift you around the table. The rotate is slower than I'd like it to be, but I haven't figured out how to make it any faster. And of course, then if I hit spacebar, and you'll know if there's camera state saved, because if you right click and avoid, you'll see that these are occupied. If you want to change them, you can always hit control and the number to override it with a new camera angle. So I can just go in real quick, read everything, adjust orders if I need to, hit spacebar and come back out, and I can do that up to 9 times, and technically 10. And I'll show you kind of another little hack here in a second. So if I wanted just a kind of a tighter table, I could hold control and hit 3, save it, and now I have that. So say I think that is way too wide, and I like hitting the spacebar to get to a default, kind of like returning to 0. what I can do, say I want to zoom that in just a little bit more, and I want this to be my default. Well, what you'll notice is it doesn't show you camera 0 on here, but there is a camera 0. If I hold Control and hit 0, this now effectively overrid that spacebar camera. So if I hit spacebar again, it'll go back to camera 0. Now, the one thing you have to think of, you want to do this after you've chosen your deployment side, because if I become red player and I hit spacebar, it's still going to remember that camera, unless I hold Control 0 again and delete it. Or actually, and delete it again. I'm trying to remember. And delete a camera. I just can't remember how to do it right now. Anyway, yeah. So if you want to change the default camera angle, just know that it's going to override your placement camera. So an advantage to having these, and you may be saying, I don't want a view of this, it's too tight. Stay with me, because there's a new feature they added in the 12.2 version of Tabletop Simulator called Picture-in-Picture. This is really cool because you can enable Picture-in-Picture by, let me get it, by right-clicking, like so. You'll get this little window, and you'll notice it pretty much mirrors your camera identical. Let's say I go ahead and I go to this image right here. What I can do is I can resize this, and it's kind of a wonky way to resize it, but it works. You just kind of have to kind of scale it and move it around until you get it the size you want and the cropping that you want. But what I can do is I can do that, and then I can lock it to player view. So now I can put this picture-in-picture down here, and no matter what view I chose, because it's locked now, I always see my command console in picture-in-picture. So say I'm the active player, I can't interact with anything in the picture-in-picture, but I can at least see what I'm looking at. Where this is a real benefit is when you're the reactive player. So I hit Shift 2, and so I pull up his command console. Well, what I can do is while it's locked, I can hit Copy Player View, and it just switched to his. So now, no matter where I am, I have his command console. I become the active player again. I hold Shift, I set my orders, I copy player view, and now my command console is in the picture-in-picture. So you kind of have this like heads-up UI that follows you wherever you go. And you can scale this and move this around, wherever is more comfortable for you. But that is a really cool feature. As I kind of dive into scripting and everything, as I have time to, there are new UI elements that you can add into Tabletop Simulator. A lot of mods have really started diving into this. Some neat things that would be pretty cool for Tabletop Simulator, like a fixed order count at the very top, where the toolbar and stuff is, things like that. But until then, this is a pretty handy thing. I don't know what this does. I think this has to do with spectators. Don't quote me on that. I tried looking it up and I couldn't see any of it. So yeah, there's that. Let's see here. Oh, and the last thing that I've got, super minor, but I'm kind of anal this way. So say I'm Yuching, okay, and I like, thematic stuff. Say I don't want my player color to be red. Well, it doesn't have to be. You can actually come in here to the zone tool, click hands, and you'll actually see the hand box come up. If you kind of back away a little bit and right click it, you'll see this color wheel. I can change that color wheel to orange. Now, what I have to do when I change my player color to orange is I also have to go to any hidden zones that were red and change those as well. So I come in, I actually click on the zones and do the same thing. Right click, go to orange. Got to get away from any scripting. right click, go to orange, right click, go to orange. Now I can go to change color, and I can click orange, and now I'm the orange player. And it fits my Yu Jing army a little bit better. My little hand cursor is orange like it should be. If you're doing a mirror match, the other player can go white, you know, because white pairs with everything. Or you can't go gray because that's Game Master. Anyway, small thing, but you never knew how to do it. That's how you can temporarily change the player color. So you can actually come in here and, you know, he's purple. You're playing against Combined Army. So now I have orange versus purple. It's a small thing, but anyway. So that is all of the changes. That's also all the tips that I've got for you. Like I said, I really am grateful y'all are enjoying the mod. You know, a couple of days ago, I was very beat down because I just really didn't have the desire to keep them updated and to be the point person on them. I had ideas for them, I had desires for them, but I didn't have the time or the energy to be the main person on them. What's funny and ironic is, you know, I'm getting ready to hand it all off, and now I'm just re-inspired to do stuff, and especially with what's happening with Infinity come Code 1 and then 4, you know, hopefully, you know, and also seeing that the player base has just shot up within recent weeks has really inspired me to kind of bless the Infinity community and really kind of start working on stuff. So hopefully we can do some more great things for the mod coming up. Very excited for Vol's league, and I hope that goes well and really ramps up player activity. Again, thank you everyone for downloading it. Thank you for watching this long-winded rambling video from a nasal Texan, and I hope you have fun playing Tabletop Simulator Infinity. Have a good one.